Hello, good morning. Welcome again. I'm happy to speak to an international audience and to explain and try to pass knowledge and experiences in organic production. In this part, we will continue to speak about soil fertility management. Somehow, this lecture, as I mentioned, as part of organic production course, was long, but I saw it necessary. Even for many things, we just went through them, didn't stay and speak for long. However, this will create a basis to understand better in the other lectures some parts of this lecture. Why I left this slide? This slide, in fact, I left in order to link this part of the lecture with the previous lecture or the previous part of the lecture. In fact, we are speaking about soil fertility, and the first view, somebody can ask, but which is the link, or why we have to speak about weed and pest management when we are speaking about soil fertility? In fact, uh, to be sure that you will learn and will go more in deepness about weed disease and pest management in other lectures from another professor of this course. But however, we know now that one agriculture practice does not have only one effect in the farming system or in the ecosystem that we create. Um, it's true that, for example, fertility, soil fertility, or when we have a fertile soil, the system, agroecosystem, is more resilient, is more stable or sustainable. It is not only because, especially biodiversity, create the possibility to or to have recycling of nutrients or availability of nutrients through microorganisms, but all of them can have or can impact another how to say angle of the resilience of the ecosystem. It is the resistant about weeds, pests, and diseases. I mean, the system in this case is more resilient, even because of that. So sometimes when we speak about fertility management or soil fertility management, and one of them is biodiversity and rotation. Through rotation, we can manage nutrients, but meantime we can help to manage weeds, pests, and diseases. So that's why I wanted to stop here and to clarify something more that um, probably I couldn't transmit in the previous lectures. As mentioned previously or presented previously in other parts of this lecture, crop rotation and introduction of legumes in the rotation program uh, offer or brings to the agroecosystem many services. However, our main focus is soil fertility management, or the benefits that different plants and biodiversity brings to the soil fertility. However, The, speaking about crop rotation, different plants that you can introduce, um, it is, of course, um, unavoidable, or we cannot avoid to speak for other services that offer like weed, disease, and pest management. As spoke previously, when we program or we want to design the rotation plan, we consider different aspects: nutrients management, but not only, biodiversity, disease, weed, and pest management. Considering in this way, different plants uh, offer different services to this system, to this diverse system. Some of the plants, as you saw in the previous slide, can be as a shelter and can feed the beneficiary insect from the other side. Some plants probably will not do that, but they can serve as a trap for the pest. So these plants, in this case, can reduce the pressure that can bring to the main crop, to our crops, by insects, especially, and diseases, but especially for pests. In this case, for example, you see this photo, one where in the same fields or next to them you have tomatoes and sunflowers and another plant that is sorghum. In this photo you have another example of the push-pull system. Let me explain here better what are the trap crops. Here I'm showing you one slide that you. Here there is a list of some plants that can serve as pest repellent plants. The list can be much longer. You yourself can have your experience and know other plants that can serve as a repellent. And what else? You can ask other practitioners in your region, in your area, to learn about repellent plants in your territory. It is important to know these plants together with attracting plants in order to do or to design a good rotation plan or program. Well, for example, let's speak about mint. You know that mint have other uses. It's not only as a repellent plant. It can have essential oil that even can be used in plant protection or in pest management. It can be used in cosmetics, in and so on, so different uses. But in this case, we are considering about pest repellent. So it repels spiders, ants, and mosquitoes. However, be careful when you plant mint because these plants um, spread rapidly, and uh, probably you can face the problem then to consider like weeds because they will be difficult to stop to stop spreading them. Basil repels mosquitoes and houseflies. Citronella grass repels mosquitoes and flying insects from getting inside when you open the door, for example, in the houses. Lavender repels gnats and mosquitoes. Chives repels Japanese beetles and carrot rust flies. Petunias repels asparagus beetles, leaf hovers, various kinds of aphids, tomato worms, and a variety of other pests. Bay leaves repels flies. Garlic repels Japanese beetles, root maggots, carrot root flies. cuddling mouse aphids. And the last that I have um, presented here is rosemary, which repels a wide variety of bugs that will want to feed on the plants you are growing. Regarding what we're speaking, one interesting example is coming from Africa. It is called push-pull system. It is practices for the maize. So the farmers there are using or are benefiting from different plants. Some of them can serve as trap crops. So they decrease the pressure of the pest to the main crop, and this pressure is decreased from another plant too, which repels the pests. So from the farmers of Africa, the example can be, or the example is coming from there is, for example, using of Napier and Sudan grass as border, which acts as a trap crop and enhance from the other side the parasitation by Cotesia wasp, which is a natural enemy. So we have, meantime, at least two benefits from planting these plants. The other plant is molasses grass silverleaf, which in this case we use as intercrop, which repels the tremblers. This plant suppresses from the other side striga. It fixes nitrogen and is very good forage for animals, increasing milk production. Look, so we have except that helping to decrease the pest, pest population, pest damage to the main crop. Meantime, we have other benefits like, for example, fixation of nitrogen in the soil and use of this plant as food for animals. From the other side, we can increase the milk production. Uh, it is from the experiments, it's shown that 15 to 20% of maize production increase.